amplification.
I do. I have power. Woo. Okay, welcome back everyone to our 7-Ray seminar. I'm Olivia Hansen, and we are going to continue with another full, wonderful day on the 7 Rays. So hello to our streaming audience, our live streaming audience. Hello, we're glad you're with us. And also the people that will be tuning in later on as part of an internet presentation as well. And welcome all you wonderful people who are here in person. Glad to be back with you. So we have a very full day, and we will begin now with a meditative attunement that Michael will lead us in.
Okay. May we have the lights down just a little, please? Is there anybody who knows how to do that? That's quite a bit. Is there anything? Yeah, is something compromised there? Is this how we had it yesterday? That's good. Great. Excellent. This will be alignment, but maybe the door should be semi-closed. We do try to be punctual here, and you know, it's just another type of compulsiveness that is associated with Aries and the 7th ray. It's the only way I can get the 7th ray, so I try to be as compulsive as possible. All right. So this, basically, getting the feel of the rays is a very important thing. You know, qualitative impressions. We can cogitate about them. We can look for evidence in the 5th ray manner, and all that's good, but oftentimes an intuitive impression, a certain resonance, a certain sense of certainty comes upon us. And that is through the sense of touch, which is so closely related to consciousness itself. So this will just be very brief. What we're going to do, and maybe we close that door back there to sort of tile the lodge, as it were. Thank you. And we'll go quickly into the sense of the observer and the sense of the soul. The sense of the inner knower who uses the instrument. The sense of the one who has wisdom and is not swayed by the modifications of the mental substance and all the astral and etheric energetic modifications. And I'd like you to use your imagination, your creative imagination, and just going through the spectrum. And there are different colors for the rays, of course, depending upon whether esoteric or more exoteric colors, but we'll choose one. And imagine yourself surrounded by a field, and within a field, of a very intense red, bright red energy. As if you do a little color breathing, you breathe this color into your energy system. It's the esoteric color of the first ray, red, the ray of will and power. And note its effect upon you, the degree of resonance or non-resonance that you seem to have with this type of color quality. Imagine yourself in your clothing wearing this color. Is this something resonant with your nature? Of course, it can be astrologically resonant and not necessarily resonant in terms of the ray formula, but still, we'll keep it general. And release yourself from that color. And now we will immerse ourselves within a field of deep indigo blue. Nothing but your energy system within that field of indigo blue, representing one of the colors, the great synthetic ray, the second ray, of which all rays are the subray. No matter what ray you have, the second ray is the major ray, and all other rays in this solar system are the subray. So we'll breathe in that indigo blue color. And what is your degree of resonance, responsiveness, harmony with this indigo field? And is there a particular place in your energy system where you feel this ray? And we will release ourselves from this ray with the out-breath. The next color we will take up, one of the colors of the third ray. It is the green. On the note F or Fa, feel yourself immersed in the field of green. And as it were, breathe it into your energy system. It's the ray of creative intelligence, abstract intelligence, active intelligence. Breathe it in and feel whether you resonate to this color, and if there's any place in your energy system that seems to resonate more than another. And release yourself from this field of green. Now we will immerse ourselves in the field of yellow. We will assign it to the ray of harmony through conflict, or harmony, beauty, and art, but yellow, of course, has third ray and also fifth ray applications. But for the moment, in this field of yellow, and breathe it in be pervaded by it, and see if there's any place where you feel it, particularly within your energy system, if you do. And release yourself from this color. Let us take up the field of orange. It's one of the colors of the fifth ray, the exoteric color. In this orange field, we breathe. Is there a resonance for you with this color? Are you attracted to this color or any of these colors? And where, if so? There are many chakras, many vehicles. Do you feel it any particular place? And release yourself from the field of orange. And we will take up one of the colors of the sixth ray, the silvery rose color, not red and not light blue at this time, but both are related. And immerse your energy system, your consciousness in the field of silvery rose. And breathing, feel if there is any particular resonance. Where do you feel it, if you feel it? And release yourself from this color. And finally, there are many shades of violet, all the way from the purple to the lavender, but we take up the middling shade of violet, the field of violet, the predominant color of the seventh ray, immersing our energy field within it, breathing it in and seeing if there is any kind of kinship, any kind of resonance with this violet color. And if you feel it, how do you feel it? Where do you feel it? And we release ourselves from this color and visualize then, right before our eyes, all the seven colors in the order given: red, indigo, green, yellow, orange, silvery rose, and violet. We have to find how these energies touch us or do not. We all have all the rays, of course, many lives spent on all the rays, but something will be predominant during this particular incarnation. And so as the day goes on, we try to remain sensitive to the colors, to the notes, to the geometry, to the symbolism of the different rays, and we see how we resonate to them, which will help us create a viable ray chart. And together we close this little visualization by sounding the Om. Good, and thank you. Let us try to be very sensitive today to every energy quality. And this will take us toward the field of intuition with respect to determining the rays. Okay, the light.
Bob, yes. So, Michael said yesterday when at quiz today, and yeah, we're going to get pop quiz. What I'm going to all is to offer the. And it's very easy. Just answer. It's a group, and hopefully you'll find this simple. Okay, I'm going to ask you, does whatever. What meal you which is out? Which ray is the ray? 2, that's right, it's ray 2. And you got to shout it out so you. Okay. I can hear lack of. Which ray compromises? 4, yes. There's another ray that compromises through its way of pleasing. That's right. These are just key words. Which ray plods? Plods. Plods. 5. 5 goes step by step by step. Right. Which ray manipulates? Right. And it's not necessarily a negative word. Manipulate is just to be able to move the energies. What the motive behind that is what makes it negative or positive. Which ray intuits? Yes, there's more. 4. It does that through its range, through its wide range, through its sensitivity. There's more. 1. Why does 1 intuit? 1 can see the big picture. It gets the all of it like that. It doesn't have to stop and think. It just knows. That's a form of intuition. Okay, which ray links? Very good. That's easy, right? No. So how does it link? How does it link, Michael?
3 minds unite.
Okay,
It
three
links
minds.
all the aspects of mind together. So, you know,
It's an offshoot. Which ray separates? 5. 5. The mind is the fifth ray. The mind separates. That's the way the mind functions. Which ray complicates? Right. Which ray mixes? Right. Okay, I'm impressed. Which ray stands? Yes. Which ray takes a stand? 6. Right. Which ray is principled? 1 and 4. Right. Each one stands on principles. Which ray goes out on a limb or takes a risk? Yes. 6. We're set 6. More? Yes. There's another one. 3. 3 can see the entire spectrum of what's out there, whether you're looking at the sky or whether you're looking in the abstract, and it can speculate on all kinds of things. So that's taking a risk, because there's nothing necessarily behind it to substantiate that. It's taking a risk in thought and in philosophy. Which ray is the sponge? 2, yes, and 4, yes. Right? It absorbs. Which ray is timid and shy? Excellent, yes. And which ray is moody? Some of these are obvious, right? Which ray is dedicated? Yes, I'm dedicated to the one I love. Which ray is the warrior? 6 is the warrior. It fights for what it... Yes. 4th ray is the warrior. It fights for... Yes. Yes. Okay. Which ray is protocol? 7. Which ray is about design? 4 and 7. Or the matrix? 7, yes. Which ray is chaos or anarchy? 3. It's the antithesis of being very ordered and practical. And yet, the 7th ray, we are told in some of the old commentary, has within it the opposite as well. It's antithesis. So 7th ray, as much as we project here that it's very ordered and everything is has to follow a particular pattern, it can be chaotic too until it finds what the pattern is, until it finds the order. So not all 7th rays are... what ray likes to do puzzles? 3, yes. There's more. Pardon? 5, there's more. 7, like crossword puzzles or Sudokus. Which ray is focused? Yes. 6. 5 is, there's another one, 7. Is 6th ray focused? Yes. Is 2nd ray focused? Can be, but not necessarily. And is 4th ray focused? Sometimes. So you see some of them can be, some of them are. Usually the hardline rays are very focused, including the 6th ray here. Which ray is methodical? 5. Step by step. 7th can also be methodical. Which ray is about common sense? 5. And which ray is about the mystery? It's 5. 5 wants to understand life. It wants to understand what lies behind. Hence, it is always trying to uncover, whether it uses a microscope, whether it wants to understand the theory, the law, the formula. It's constantly wanting to understand the mysteries of life. Which ray is harmless? 2. There's more. 4. When it's in harmony. When it's at one. Right. And which ray discriminates? And 3 can. Which ray is meticulous entirety? Yes. And which ray is stable? 7 usually fits here, but there's other ones that can be stable. 1 can be. But 7 is the one that we're normally, it's the one that's closest to the earth, it's most grounded. Which ray discerns? 5 discriminates. Discerning has a slightly different quality to it. 4, yeah, it's a little more sensitive. You know, it takes in almost that, something you can't put your finger on, like discriminating is very, very, it goes linearly. Discerning isn't quite as linearly. You almost have to use your sense of something or other, which comes usually from soul or higher up. Which ray analyzes? Yes. 3 and 7. Does 1 analyze? No. 1 knows. It doesn't have to go through the steps of analyzing. It just knows. Right? 4 doesn't analyze. It intuits. It just knows because of its wide range. And the second ray also, because of its inclusive quality, doesn't have to go through all the steps of analysis. Which ray counts? 5. And which ray unifies or brings together? 4 and 2. 2, through its magnetism, it brings together, and 4 wants to continually bring the opposites to a point of harmony and at one-ment. Which ray creates? Yes. 4, yes. I can't hear you. 7, yes. There's more. 3, I think was said, yes. 1, yes. They all do. All the rays are creative. Every one of them does it in their own way. Yes. So thank you all. You did very well. Now, I could use this. Okay, so what we're going to do next is a little bit of a review for most of you, and that we're going to look at the constitution of man. Most of you know this already, but we have to have a foundation from which to work with, and this is good for the streaming, and if it's going to be on, internet and all that. So what does that mean, constitution? What is the constitution? It's that which constitutes, makes up the human being. Can we have that? I have to wake mine up, huh? Okay, this isn't right. Let me just... give me a moment, please. I'm sorry, guys. Okay. I'm sorry. I wasn't as prepared as I thought. Okay. So there's a quote here from Esoteric Psychology 1. That every unit of the human race is on some one of the 7 rays. Therefore, some one color predominates. One color is one ray, one quality, one note. And some tone sounds forth. Infinite are the gradations and many the shades of color and tone. And yet within our own system, we have gradations and tones and different colors and notes. Different energies, so we can say. No one person has one energy. We are comprised of a variety of energies, and that's what we're going to look at. So, using a linear model, we'll start from as high as we can go, and we have the spirit or the monad. We're not going to go there as far as trying to ascertain our ray. We're going to be very happy to try to go as far as soul. So soul then is then, the monad moves through the soul. So the soul then moves through its vehicles, and its vehicles would then be the personality. So we have the three aspects represented here. The first aspect being the spirit or the monad, the second aspect being the soul, and the third aspect being the personality. Now the personality is made up then of three vehicles as well, three bodies, three aspects. You all know this already. This is just review. We start at the top. The top is the mind, the mental body. That would be the first aspect. Then you have the emotional body, which would then be the second aspect. And then the third would be the physical form, the physical and etheric. Etheric being the energy, the life behind the physical form. So here we have the vertical model, and now I'm going to show you, well, not quite yet, but here's just a different way to look at it. Okay, so we are a form, but there's so much more to us. There is the soul, and then of course the monad, which is life itself. Okay, I'm just showing you a slightly different way of looking at it, so it's not always linear. We can go in deeper. So concentric circles is another way, if you are good with visualization, to create what the constitution is. Don't worry about the numbers, but the most outer, the most densest of all the vehicles would obviously be the body, right? The physical etheric form. And then as we move in, what is of lesser density and of a slightly higher vibration would be the emotional vehicle. The colors here are supposed to really represent a lot, so there's reason for color. And then we go to the mental vehicle. In mine it comes out a little bit more orangey. So the mental vehicle then has a slightly higher vibration than the other two vehicles or the other two bodies. That's why when you are working on trying to change habits emotionally, you can't do them through the emotions. You always have to go up to a vehicle that's higher, because every vehicle that's higher is a higher vibration, has less density to it. And these three are comprised and come together in what we call the personality. Esoterically, the word personality has a different meaning than it does out there, used colloquially. You know, colloquially we'll say, oh, that person's quite the personality. That's not what we mean here. Here a personality has a particular function. It is the one that coordinates and integrates the three lower bodies. It is the part of us that we express. It's the part that we meet when we meet you and we get to know you. What is it that we see about you? We really see your personality. And then, of course, there's the soul and then the monad. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because we're going to be doing this the rest of the day. But the personality consists of the three bodies, and each of the bodies has a particular function. The physical form, well, you know what the physical form does. It's the way you move, it's your physical structure, it's the way you're coordinated, and the amount of vitality you have. What are your emotions about? They're about your desire nature. It's about your attachments. It's how you emote. It is your feelings. And your aspiration. And of course, the mind. The mind is what creates thought. It's the thought form creative faculty. The mind analyzes. The mind synthesizes. It associates one thing with another thing. It compares. It discriminates, and it interprets that which we see and receive. So these three bodies make up the personality. And that's it. Okay. Just before Kathy goes up there, I just want to mention that, okay, so now you know the functions of what constitute a man, rather the parts that constitute. So we learned yesterday, or we reviewed yesterday, a series of 7 rays. So you have these rays now, and you know them somewhat. And what we're going to be doing then is doing a fifth ray thing, which is separating all the various vehicles to try to really understand what these vehicles do, and then to try to ascertain a ray for that vehicle. Okay? So you have all the rays in your basket. Now we're going to do the fifth ray thing of separation.
Okay. My difficult task, as I see it, is to try and share a few thoughts on the mental body. And I chose the Buddha because he is perhaps the preeminent teacher who stepped forward and focused on the mental body. And Buddhism is full of texts that are attempting to train us in the right use of our minds. So it's a beautiful gift that the Buddha gave to us. And he stands as the one of the preeminent teachers. And his festival is coming up in less than 2 weeks now, the Esoteric Festival. Before I begin, I'd just like to say that the whole study of the rays, as you get into it, as we have been preparing for this workshop, you can have a tendency to feel that you know less, that you're becoming less sure of what your rays are. The more you know how little you know. And it's quite a daunting task to come to a real understanding of what your rays are. Because we're not just isolated vehicles. We're not just a mental vehicle. It's hard to isolate that. We're not just a personality. We're not fully a soul, an embodied soul yet. We're also colored very much by many other factors, as we know. We're colored very strongly by our astrological chart. And I agree with those who've said that it's quite difficult, or if perhaps impossible, to determine one's ray makeup through a study of the chart, but yet the chart itself brings in ray energies, complementary or not to the rays that make up our personality vehicles. So, you can feel a real resonance with a certain ray energy, and it might not even be found in your vehicles. It's in your horoscope very strongly. If you say you have Pluto on the ascendant, bringing in a powerful first ray vibration, powerful Leo on the Pluto on the ascendant of a Leo rising, bringing a really strong first ray quality. But yet that person may not have first ray in their vehicles. Then there's the, as Elena, who's not here, always brings in this idea of the legacy ray. And the Tibetan has a statement, or I'm not sure exactly how it goes, but to the extent that sometimes that legacy ray, the personality ray in our previous life or in a series of previous lives, can color us more fully in this life than our present personality ray. Might not even be in our ray equipment, but it's so strong from many lives, just as if we've come through a series of lives as a woman, and then we come in this life in a male body. We might feel a real resonance with the feminine and sort of not so resonant with the masculine. And that's another influence, our sex. Our nationality. Our nationality colors us so much, and some of us spoke yesterday about the rays of the different nations, soul ray, personality ray. The disciples respond more fully to the soul ray of their nation, and the ordinary humanity responds more fully to the personality ray. So we're very much colored by that. We know that a British person, second ray soul country, first ray personality, has a very different expression to an American second ray soul, sixth ray personality. And then our stage on the path, our stage of evolutionary development, where do we stand? This colors also our ability to embody our rays. And Also, there is this teaching, which we're not going to get into too much, Michael may a little, is that, and Elena spoke to this at the astrology pre-conference, that the rays work through different vehicles. And so, you know, you might be a very advanced soul, as was Roberto Assagioli, who was one of the members of the Dinah group, a very advanced person. His soul and personality rays, I believe, were both working through his astral body. You would think perhaps, if you were just quickly thinking about it, that perhaps an advanced soul would be working through the mental body. But he was a very advanced soul, and his soul chose, and his personality chose, to work through the astral body as part of his service. You know, there's a real ability to distribute through that astral body. So that's just an introduction to state that it's not easy, any of this, to put all this together into some cohesive package that we can say we're this, that, or the other. I don't think it's very easy. But we're here to bring in some basic principles, and then it's your work to go back and do the real work of determining for yourself what your rays might be. And I can just share a little bit of my own process in that regard, and not to say that I'm sure of what my rays are. You know, I'm certainly not. But my process was, when I first began reading the books, I really focused in on Dinah 1, Discipleship in the New Age, Volume 1 and 2. Because, as has been mentioned, there, in those teachings, the Tibetan gave to each of the disciples their rays. You know, so there's no question there. We know for sure. And through a study of the letters that he wrote to those individuals, you can find aspects of yourself. Maybe not the whole picture, but he'll outline some of the problems of a fourth ray mind, some of the benefits of a fourth ray mind, and you can place yourself sometimes in those passages. So when we speak about the mental vehicle, it is a vehicle subject to incredible expansion. That is the teaching that the mind can receive illumination. And we're living in a time when this is more readily possible to us. We're told that because of the particular combination of energies that are extant in the world today, primarily the incoming of the energy of Aquarius and the incoming of the seventh ray can lead to the illumination of consciousness. And so we're living in a time also when we're told that the energy of the second ray has moved to the Western world. This is a time of great expansion, illumination, for the mental principle, coupled with the fact that we're living in a time of intense Shambhala impacts. And the Tibetan tells us that at this time, the Shambhala impacts are decidedly affecting the mental bodies. So all of our mental bodies, no matter what ray, if we are seeking to become mentally polarized, are being very stimulated by this intense first ray, powerful impact pouring into the minds. No matter what mind we might find ourselves on, it's receiving a potent impact. Also, the energy of Aquarius, which is coming in and growing in potency with each passing decade, is a decidedly mental energy. It's very different. It's an air sign, very different from the watery, more intuitive, more feeling energy of Pisces. Aquarian energy is an air sign. Not to say it's not feeling, it is about the water of life. And it does work through the astral vehicle. But it is decidedly mental We've spoken a little bit about the ray triangles. The rays come through a triangle of constellations. The only triangle which Aquarius is a part of is the fifth ray triangle. Venus, channeling the energy. We've been speaking about Venus in the esoteric astrology pre-comp. Venus becomes the planet that overshadows this inpouring energy of Aquarius. The inpouring energy of Aquarius works through Venus as it comes into our planetary life. So Venus, the fifth ray planet, becomes exceedingly potent at this time, again giving this strong mental influence to this Aquarian age. So we're all being stimulated at the mental level. And also, we're supposed to look at the decadent rulers of the ages. Governing for 700 years is the planet of Saturn, the planet of the third ray, with a very powerful, also very powerful mental influence. This is pouring into the disciples of the world, giving us those difficult lessons and challenges, but also those opportunities to use our minds, to no longer travel up and down the land, to be whirling around, to stand. Saturn is about standing. So we have a lot of opportunities with the planetary energies that are working with us to the extent that we work and make ourselves available, receptive to this powerful stimulation pouring into our minds. So there are three aspects of the mental body, all of which we come to know as we progress on our spiritual path of development. The lower concrete mind, related to concrete knowledge. The sun of mind, the soul, intuitive, love, wisdom. It is that towards which we receive impressions at our high moments of inspiration, that which we seek to align with in our meditative work. And then the higher mind. There comes a point on the path wherein the personality and soul fuse and blend, which is a long process. It's not an immediate thing. But as there is this blending and fusing between the two lower aspects, they then approach the higher aspect. So these are just a couple quotes related to the lower mind. The underlying distortions of the concrete mind can incite to ambition, to love of power, to deviousness in approach to any action of any kind. So, we're still living in the Kali Yuga for many, many more years ahead. The mind is the slayer, Blavatsky told us, on a certain level. And it seems that this has been the case decidedly in our planetary life, wherein we're told that the masters of the wisdom, I'm not sure I have my facts straight on this, facts are not my forte, but I understand to some degree that there was an overdevelopment of the mind. And sometime during the last century or during this time now, the fifth ray, the masters of the wisdom, had to intervene in our planetary life to arrest the inpouring of fifth ray energy, because the rays pour in other ways. They don't just govern us, obviously. They govern larger cycles of the planet. And so there was this inpouring fifth ray energy which had to be arrested because the masters saw that the lower concrete mind, not the higher mind, the lower concrete mind of humanity was receiving too much stimulation and was overtaking the heart. The heart of humanity was not keeping pace with the mental development. And so this concrete ray, fifth ray, had to be withdrawn. And so we, being on a very mentally polarized path, this path of the ageless wisdom, we have to be very wary of any tendencies within ourselves to be overly developed at the level of the mind and to not be in touch with our hearts. That caused the failure of the Dhyana group, of the discipleship in the New Age group. The Tibetan tells us the failure of the group which he established as a master of the wisdom, choosing his disciples with great care. The failure stemmed from the underactivity of the heart center, perhaps as a result of the overactivity and the blocking out by the mind, the lower mind, which blocks the light if it is allowed to become too opaque. Mental development, when paralleled by emotional stability and a strong, healthy body, is the aim for all. But now, you have mental development paralleled by an unstable astral and a weak, underfed, badly raised physical. So these strong minds were not able to work effectively through the unstable astral and the weak, badly raised physical. Think of all the pressures we're subjected to being raised in this world of agitation, which seems to increase with each decade. The overactivity of this third ray personality planet is intense. And it's doing a lot to turn us into emotional wrecks, physical wrecks, and then the occultist adds occult wrecks, you know? So there's a lot to be said for breathing, as Heidi always asks us to do. I don't know if she remembers. I don't remember to do it that much. But she did tell me her son reminds her about 50 times a day to be present, Mom. Be here. Be here now, as Ram Dass said. I mean, it was a really simple phrase. But I ask myself, how often am I really here now? You know, how often is my mind taking me into some future imagining, taking me out of the present? Lower mind, instead of being a means to an end and a weapon for use, is in fair way of being a ruler and a tyrant, preventing the play of the intuition and shutting out the abstract mind. So these are serious considerations for us when we approach any discussion of the mind. It's very real limitations if we allow it to unduly block us from the other aspects of our nature. So this is just a reminder that there is a way out, somewhere over the rainbow. Skies are blue. There's a land that I dream of. It's true, you know, it wasn't just a song. It's a very beautiful image of the Rainbow Bridge, the bridge of the 7 colors of the 7 rays. All ashrams are found upon the Antahkarana. Each strand of the bridge leads us into the ashram of our destiny, our true home, that towards which we aspire in our highest moments. And the teaching on the Antahkarana is very long and very detailed, and part of your path, if you choose to follow this path. It's to understand the teaching on the Antahkarana, how to build the bridge in consciousness which unites the 3 aspects of the mind. That's what it does. And as we build those lighted strands of energy day in, day out, it's a Saturnine task. We're governed by Saturn now. We are able to institute the disciplines, the rituals, that will enable us to do the very hard, unglamorous work of daily meditation. As Michael likes to remind us, I believe in the new schools there will be 3 to 5 hours dedicated each day to meditation. This is the path that we're eventually going to follow. Sooner or later, it's up to us. The teaching on the Antahkarana is like the superhighway. We don't have to enter onto it. We can go on the meandering path. But if we want to go onto the superhighway and take the opportunity before us at this time for accelerated evolutionary development, meditation is our key. So it's up to us. It's our choice. I might skip forward because I've been meandering on the byways. Okay. The mind is that which aids the process of alignment. It is the aligning agent in the first stage of the alignment process is decidedly through the mind. It is the aligning of the 3 vehicles, the physical, the emotional, and the lower mind body within the causal periphery, within the soul, and they're stabilizing there by an effort of the will, that the real work of the ego, our higher self, in any particular incarnation can be accomplished. The great thinkers of the race, the true exponents of lower mind, are fundamentally those whose 3 lower bodies are aligned. That is to say, whose mental body holds the other 2 in circumspect alignment. Okay? So it is the mind that can be the vehicle for this desired alignment. So I'm going to switch gears a little now and go into a more practical discussion of the 3 predominant ray energies that govern the mental vehicle. We have some help here in determining what our mental ray might be, because the Tibetan gives us a very clear teaching that the large majority of us find our mental vehicles on one of 3 rays. So it's not as hard. It's not as hard as determining out of 7. So really, I would encourage any of you who are new to this to really try and fit yourself into one of these 3 rays. And then if you really can't make a case for it, then consider the others. So we start with number 1, the first ray mind. And what I'd like to do is just briefly read a couple of these passages, and then I'm going to call someone from the audience who has a first ray mind to discuss with them their understanding of their mind and why it is first ray. So you get an actual experience of this. Hello? Okay. It is your first ray mind that gives you undoubted mental influence. This is felt most strongly by all who contact you. It can bring in energy, the first ray. But it has some weaknesses. It tends towards a sense of separativeness. When you have been non-separative, it has been because you have forced yourself to cooperate. And yet you were all the time conscious of it. Cooperation and human contacts are easy for you in theory, but difficult in fact, and would have been hitherto impossible had it not been for your 6th ray emotional body and the steady beat of your loving soul. A tendency to criticize. Need I enlarge upon this? And a great facility for overactivity. Your mind is in a constant state of fever, with periods of violent activity amounting almost to delirium. And these are some qualities that, describe the first ray, taken from Tapestry. So I think I'm going to call 2 first ray minds up, and I haven't cleared it with them, but they will listen. Okay, so Morya, come on, up here. Come on up. And Lawson, I believe you're using the first ray here. So if we could turn up the lights a little, if that's possible. Yeah, go ahead. I'm going to use my little, Sergey's volunteering. I'm going to use my little bells because we have to keep in a little time frame here, just in case I need it. So, 3 potential first ray minds. As I said earlier, we could be wrong, so it's good to have a little bit of variety so we see. Lawson, let's start with you. How do you relate to some of these qualities on the board, and how do you what's your experience of your first ray mind? Some of the potentials of it, the pitfalls of it?
Well, I'm a recent convert to having a first ray mind. Since I found out about the rays, I have thought consistently that I have a fourth ray mind. So it was only in recently reviewing the list of characteristics of the first ray mind that I went, gee, I identify with every single one of these characteristics. When I'm certain, I'm suddenly very certain. There's not a doubt in my mind that what I'm saying is correct. It's nice when it's true, because it brings instant illumination to those that I'm communicating with, because I simplify things so that it's easily assimilated. Of course, if I'm wrong, I'm a huge obstacle upon the path, because no matter what argument is presented to me, I easily deflect it. Shall I switch?
Okay, yeah. Morya, I'm sorry, I'm pronouncing your name wrong.
Ever since I started doing the ray profile stuff, which was back in 1988, I've been quite sure that my mind was on ray 1, mainly because while I can do analysis, if I'm pushed into a corner, it's the last thing in the world I think of doing when a question arrives for me. I pause briefly, and I know the answer, and I go ahead with it. Only when the answer doesn't arrive, then I start scrambling around and figuring out, well, what else might be going on here. I tend to be very direct. I'm learning to temper that directness somewhat. I just think it's partly complicated by the fact that there's a fair amount of fourth ray, and whether that's a legacy or whether that's from the fact that I've got 4 heavy-duty planets in Taurus. But so I also think in metaphors. So I get a direct awareness of something, and then I try and find a way to express it so it will be clear to other people. And so I'll use figures of speech in order to get that across.
Okay.
Is there anything else you want?
No, that's good.
Okay.
Okay, Sergey.
You've got one.
For those of you, I just wanted to introduce Sergey. Sergey, one second. Sergey, for those of you who don't know, has been doing a Herculean task in Russia and many other parts of the world, but primarily in Russia, to bring forward the translation of the Bailey books, to distribute the literature. He has hundreds of people who he's introduced to this work. He's tireless in his support of the Ageless Wisdom teaching.
You see, just imagine, if you are the first-rate mind, all of you, when you are saying this, because all of you are sparks in the field of hierarchy, even a glimpse of light they see, you see? Because there is dark on the earth, and you are a glimpse of light, they immediately see this glimpse. Then there is dark, totally dark. This is separate quantum of light. You see that's why people who lives under earth for half a year, I don't remember his name, he sees in the light of cigarette, as if we are seeing the sun. So this is the eye of hierarchy. You understand this, yes? So just imagine you are the first ray mind. So you are in the field of Master Morya, and he gives you energy of first ray. You will be immediately blind, mentally blind. You see? Because it's impossible to work when you are on the fourth ray or fifth ray mind to be atmic inspired. You see? It's impossible. That's why if you are stated, I am first ray, so they will give you the first ray. Because they never joke. If you invoke, they do this for you. You understand me? And as Lawson said, you never doubt. But if you are mistaken, you always break your neck, everything immediately. You cannot understand fact by fact. You understand as a whole immediately. If you failed, you are like Lucifer, you broken. He tried. He is first ray being. So he tried to move us in a moment, but he wasn't able. And he had not enough humility to go back to admit it, and he go down. The same happened to you if you are stated you are first ray and you are not. You understand this? You will be immediately go back.
Okay, we have to just keep moving, but thank you all very much. Thank you very much. Okay. The fourth ray mind. There were many fourth ray minds in the Tibetan's group, and he said that this was the main ray energy that brought them into his group was this fourth ray mind, which, with its facility for the building of the Antahkarana. It gives a power to harmonize, to avert conflict, thus acting as a calm center in the whirlpool of activity with which you are surrounded. This is your dominant contribution to the work. Your mental body gives you a love of harmony, aiding you in organizational rule, a love of beauty, which has enabled you to see the real, and a discrimination which has enabled you to gather around yourself that which unfolded beauty to you, books and beautiful things. So here are some more qualities of the fourth ray mind. And I'd like to call up Heidi and Eva Marie and Nicole. Where's Nicole? Is she not here anymore? Okay. Nicole's not here. Okay. All right, so just the two of you then. How do you relate to your fourth ray minds and some of the qualities given?
Well, most of you saw me last night. That's, in a way, that's the fourth ray personality, but also the fourth ray mind. Certainly for me, I think I strive for peace at all costs, and it is hard to maintain a position like, this is what I feel, because then I'll talk to someone else and say, oh, right, you too. Let's see if we can find a way to blend these two opposites. I'm constantly inwardly trying to merge the opposites, constantly trying to merge the different opinions, and it's an inner pain if I can't. And also the true delight of the quick, spontaneous, improvisatory, playful mind. What comes in, it's quick and it comes out, and it's alive and it's light. But for me, generally, the fourth ray mind is just always weighing and attempting to find this elusive, peaceful path.
Okay. Very similar experience for me. Oftentimes I'll make a decision in the work that I need to do, and someone else will come in and say, it might work better this way. And I usually always consider it, because it might work better that way. And I often feel pain when I have to make a decision one way or the other. It's hard sometimes to make a decision one way or the other, and I come to the point to where you have to make a decision. There's 5 minutes left. So that is one of the main experiences I have with my fourth ray mind. And like Heidi, it's balanced by that joyful, sort of spontaneous, let's play, because it's fun.
I just say, there's also one quote from Tapestry of the Gods that says, do you analyze or do you agonize? And to me, that then you can decide if you agonize, if you're a fourth ray mind.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Oh, you have a question? Yeah, just a brief comment. Okay, Sergey. Just a brief. Brief? Okay.
You see, when I'm talking to a person of the fourth ray mind, it's extremely difficult to understand what they want to see, what they want to say, because they have always intuition, and they have always listening about their opinion. Because if they say, this is a fact, and they're stable, and you can show them.
Thank you. Yeah, I have found that when I've been associating with people whose mental ray is, I believe, similar to my own, there's just a direct line of communication. We understand each other. So it's often very helpful in group work to work with someone on your same mental ray. But on the other side of it, it's nice to work with someone on a different mental ray to see things differently, have a more broader perspective. Okay, so the fifth ray, if I call you and you choose to not have a fifth ray mind, just let me know, I might be wrong. Peter, would you like to volunteer? And I've heard that William Meter is maybe fifth ray mind. Is that true? Are you there or not? You're not sure? You're one? Okay. Nicholas, I just spied you. Come on up. Come on up. Come on. Okay, so why don't you come up and you can share your process with us. So the fifth ray mind, oops, I didn't actually, let me just read a few of these quotes. I got ahead of myself. It is the paramount cause of their non-magnetic behavior, using that word in its psychological implications. I would remind you that being non-magnetic at your stage of development means that you cannot radiate that soul life to others as you would like to do. For your dominant fifth ray mind is insulated, isolated, and has a natural tendency to that discrimination which leads to separativeness. And the reverse effect is also true. The radiation of others can be also shut off, and hence your inability to register telepathic impressions. The value of a fifth ray mind is, however, very great, for it means a keen and useful mind and an open door to inspiration. This ray gives you the ability in the field of knowledge, but it must be balanced by the unfoldment of the intuition. It gives you power to master your chosen field of knowledge, but it must be balanced by love and wisdom. It's a questioning mind, an inquiring mind. It gives a grip of facts, a grasp of the contours of the occult sciences. And the last one, maybe I cut that one out, but he often says it gives an interest in astrology. Okay, and here's some of the qualities that Michael gave us in his book. Scientific, precise, accurate, acutely analytical, keen, sharp, defining mind, literal mind, lucid, questioning. Okay?
We should have one more person.
Which one?
Lynn, why don't you join them?
Okay, Lynn?
Lynn, why don't you join them?
I'd love to be an volunteer again.
You notice they're all male, but whatever. Okay, Peter, you want to start?
Is this operating?
Yeah.
It is good. Yeah.
I definitely resonate with the fifth, with what Eva said when I never thought of this. Constantly involved in mystery, in wanting to peel back the layers continuously of what I see as mystery in life and on every level. I guess I certainly experienced the non-magnetic side, but I've always felt I had a very strong radiation. I can't see it. Today I just realized I might have a first ray physical instead of the seventh I thought I had, and a second ray astral that would explain the lack of contact that I have with the world and socially at large. So, fifth ray mind, timid, and first ray approach, sort of intrepid approach.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Well, what you started out by talking about the mystery, I can only agree. It's the same for me. Wherever there's a mystery, as I perceive it, my mind seeks to naturally apply itself to that mystery, seeking to find a solution, seeking to penetrate and peel off the layers, as you say. It is a very natural reaction, it seems. So that's one very basic thing about my mind, I think. Then I think my mind aids me in my relation to machines, computers, technology. It gives me an intuitive approach to machines, if you put it that way. I think the fifth ray mind is intuitive when it comes to how they work and how you can get them to work. Then I can certainly agree with the fifth ray mind being non-magnetic and tending to separativeness. It's always something you need to check. But it can go either way. It is, after all, connected to Venus, the planet of union and relationships. So it can go either way. It can certainly establish relations as well. The fifth ray being known as the great connector. So you simply have to turn the pentagram upwards, and then it will work in that way for you. I think that will be fine for me.
I can relate to some of the comments already made about the fifth ray. I will just focus on a different quality, that of plotting. The fifth ray, in my experience, is very systematic in its approach to something. For instance, when I read a book, I read the cover, then I read the back, then I read the copyright, then the table of contents, chapter by chapter, and I plod through. It's very hard for me to skip or to, I have a stack of books that have been partially read, but I always go plod through, step by step, through the process. It's very helpful, I think, cutting things apart and putting them back together is a very helpful way for me to understand. Back before computers came, I would make copies, I would cut, I would paste onto paper. Now with computers, I can go through the Bailey books, for instance, and I can cut the section that I'm interested. I can paste them into a document, then I can arrange them in such a way that it makes sense to me. I mean, I don't do much thinking. It's just taking the thoughts there and organizing and analyzing them and placing in a way that brings some illumination to me.
Okay.
I think that's enough.
Okay, well, I recognize many of the qualities that have already been said, but I'd like to also approach it from a slightly different perspective. And that is, in the way I see the fifth ray working in my mind, is that there's a lot of the way I think about things that has to do with giving clarity to something. In many ways, I always view the fifth ray as the ray that tries to clarify truth. to help discern that which is true from that which only seems to be true, to discern the difference between an authentic truth and a pseudo-truth. And there's a fine line between those two things. And so the fifth ray has a sort of an insistence on cutting through that to see where is the distortion and where is the real gem. So for me, that's often how it plays. And it also shapes in the way I use language as a teacher to shape ideas, to convey ideas to others. So I see it in that sense more so than in a scientific sense, although I have a little bit of that in me as well. I, for years, have been holding the view that I have a fifth ray mind, but I also am still struggling with, it's the one part of my constitution that I'm most uncertain about, inasmuch as I see a tremendous amount of first ray in my mind nature as well, because my mind tends to be a synthesizing mind as well as a principled mind. In many ways, as a teacher, I'm much more interested in teaching the fundamental principles of the esoteric philosophy rather than all of the minute details which are more fifth ray in their orientation. So even after 20-some years of working with this, I struggle. Is it a fifth ray mind sub 1 or is it a first ray mind sub 5? And the jury's still out on that. But I can say with certainty that the fifth ray is strong, primarily from this notion of the need to clarify truth from pseudo-truth.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Maybe that's it.
Thank you. Thank you all. And I'm really extending my time, but we cannot finish without Michael coming up as an exponent of the third ray mind. Come on, Michael.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Just for a minute.
Yes, if you can turn it over here to my computer. Actually, I will be other, okay? We're going to break into groups, correct?
Okay.
First ray, fourth ray, fifth ray.
Yeah.
And I will be other types of minds.
So can you say a little bit about that?
Yes, I can just say a little bit. Now, you know, the old saying is when you hear hoof beats, you think of horses first, and then wildebeests next. So there were 2 third-ray minds in the Tibetans group, and I think there were, Ellen, is she here? Maybe some of the astrologers are doing their thing, you know. There were 3 second-ray minds in the Tibetans group. And he also said that around the time of the first initiation, the mental ray was frequently found upon the 7th ray. And of course, you know, if you want to be like the Buddha or the Catholic Church, you can choose a 6th ray mind, but he says a very rare phenomenon, my brother. So out of DK's some 50 students, there were perhaps 5 or 6 in the category of other. But I think you should exhaust, as Kathy said, first the tendency to be on the 1st, 4th, or 5th ray, and then if something else seems to be happening, then I would say consider, if you are a disciple, because only a person on the path can have one of the variations, either in the mental body, emotional, or physical body. Only such people can vary from the standard assignment of ray 145 for the mind, 2-6 for the astral, 3-7 for the physical. When it comes to the third ray mind, you know, lately, I guess we can all change on these things to a degree, and I feel I have a lot of ramification of the third ray mind, but I do, am I ramifying yet? Okay. You know, I'm desperately looking for my own list, you know. I seem to have some very strong fifth ray qualities in terms of analysis. But you have to realize that the third ray, I passed it. No, I want to go down. I want to find the third ray mind. Well, God, I'm just going to have to, can you find it for me? Look, here's what I want to say. And you know, look, I think Nicholas brought up the point. All minds can be intuitive. It depends on the connection that you have created with your soul or with the spiritual triad. It's true at first, the fifth ray mind tends to perhaps deflect intuition because of its concentration on the world of the senses. And the fourth ray mind is listed by DK as sharp. Sharp. So the earlier stages of the fourth or the fifth ray mind can be developed into something quite different from how they start out. The intuitive fifth ray mind can exist when the Antahkarana is built and when there is a strong connection with the soul. So we're all at that stage where you have to be very careful about isolating these characteristics. Like a fourth ray mind can't think it's always in struggle, blah, blah, blah. It can be extremely discerning, extremely sharp in detecting what is behind the obvious. So let us all realize that we, as students of occultism and potential disciples, I assume we all can be that, can begin to synthesize these qualities. Now, the main thing I want to say, and I don't want to take time, the soul is on the mental plane. The spiritual triad is on the mental plane, and the concrete mind is on the mental plane. And this means that as your mind begins to fuse and integrate, it's not just a layered thing, my mind is only this, because the soul ray will infuse your mind and add to it the qualities of its nature. And so it's very hard to isolate like only one thing when you start to become an integrated individual. Then comes the spiritual triad, which in a way carries the ray of the monad along with it in the abstract mind. So as you begin to reach into the higher stages of discipleship, or let's just say, beyond the first initiation and towards the second and so forth, there can be integration of these factors. Now, with my, I've got a lot of, I'm using this gesture to try to make that fifth ray work. Okay. And I do have that. And I will occasionally read a manual. O come, the manual. I did. I actually did once read a fax manual. I made it work. It was interesting. Okay. But generally, the third ray can take from every place and weave it all together and, kind of make it like a tapestry of the gods. So that's kind of what I use. But I have third ray at many levels of my system. And remember, the ray of the monad affects the ray of the mind. The ray of the soul affects the ray of the astral body. The ray of the personality affects the ray of the physical body. So let us be aware of all the interpenetration of the rays. But first, use the fifth ray system and make them clear, cut, and distinct. Then begin to blend them together. So I think I have that ramifying, very fetched from afar type of third ray mind, but it's not just the mind itself. And I love abstractions. Heidi was reading from my book the other day, and I don't even understand what I wrote. It's very interesting. I'm sure it would be interesting. It would take me a lot longer to understand it than it took to write it, which says something. This is the fourth ray personality having fun. Okay. So first be really, really clear. We'll get into our groups, I'm sure. We'll get into our groups, and you'll see whether you resonate with the people who are there. I thought we had some very good examples here. This is, I think, very, very good to see it embodied. And then you'll go to your groups, and you'll go to where you think you belong. You can come to see me if you think you're other. Okay. And then if you don't resonate, then you wander to another group and see if you resonate a bit more. But remember, there are many blendings and interplays going on all the time. We can use that fifth ray to try to just say it's exactly this and only this, but there's more to it. Always remember that. Have I done a little third ray for you? I hope so. Okay. So do we want to do that? Why don't we create 3 main groups? And we're going to have, and some of the teachers here, we got a lot of wonderful. You go to the group where you feel most resonant, and you can help, our team together to help the people coming to those groups define the quality. Okay? So why don't we put the fifth ray group off over there, and we'll put the first ray group over there, and we'll put the fourth ray group in the middle, of course, and I'll be here as other. Okay? Go. Yeah, that's what I mean. That's fine. Yeah, sure. Okay, fourth ray, come.